What's up, guys? We are going to do a full take review with spoilers on the newly released Fantastic Four First Step, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into that. As always, guys, please give this video a like, hit subscribe on the channel, helps me out a ton, and without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into this. So a little bit of a thing that I want to address, kind of right off the bat, and I think everyone kind of put it together from the trailers, but it does appear to be a period piece, right? It has more of that, like, 1950s, 1940s kind of like aesthetic to it between the fedoras and the trench coats and the record players and just everyone's wearing a freaking turtleneck. So that aesthetic was kind of fun to see them play around with. Turns out that this is a different Earth than our Earth here. I don't know the numbers of the different Earths and the different dimensions off the top of my head, so please forgive me. But they do make that disclaimer just right away in the beginning of the film. Kind of going down the list here on the notes that I've got. Let's talk about the cast first, right? Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, they did a wonderful job as Reed Richards and Sue Storm. We then had Joseph Quinn coming in as the Human Torch. We had Evan Moss coming in as Thing or Ben. They did great as far as the characters were concerned. If we look at each of the four of them individually, Reed Richards, Pedro Pascal did a really good job having and portraying this extremely intelligent individual as Reed Richards is supposed to be, but really honing into his anxieties of things, especially when he finds out that he's going to be a dad, right? Really honing into the anxieties about, like, well, we're mutated. There's things that are wrong with our DNA. What about the baby? We need to run tests. We need to do this. We need to baby-proof the entire tower. Just really leaning into that anxiety of someone that has the resources that he does, but really showing that he's still human, right? I loved those touches into it. His counterpart then, Sue Storm, Vanessa Kirby, did a really good job balancing him out and reminding him that it's going to be okay and that they're going to get through things together, still being that very maternal character within this tower with the other three guys, right? You need someone that's going to love it out there, but there was definitely some mama bear moments kind of throughout the film, and I was definitely there for it. I think that Vanessa did a really good job portraying that side of her character. Moving on to Johnny Storm, right? Invisible Woman's brother, aka the Human Torch. We definitely got more depth to him in this adaptation of the film or this adaptation of the character than I think that we've gotten in other versions prior, where he kind of came across as a playboy and he kind of came across as ditzy and dumb. But they remind you very early on within this film that when the four of them went up on their initial excursion, that the four of them are scientists. The four of them are very, very, very intelligent individuals. So seeing aspects of that within Johnny in this film was very fun to see, especially when he plays the large part towards the end of the film of decoding Silver Surfer's language and kind of her origin story and how she related to Galactus and all of this other kind of stuff. That coming from Johnny and not just coming from Reed all the time or Mr. Fantastic all the time was really cool to see that full scope, that well-rounded teamwork aspect, if you will, of it. They definitely still had hints in there of Johnny being a little bit of a playboy, right? And they made jokes about him having a crush or being in love with Silver Surfer this time around, but it wasn't his character, right? He wasn't defined by those playboy attributes. He was still a scientist at its core, and I loved that about it. Ben, aka The Thing, I think this one's been pretty consistent, each adaptation that we've gotten. He's a very grounded character. He is the, no pun intended, but he is the rock of the family. He is there to be a voice of reason. He is there in a pinch, and you see a couple of times that he maybe struggles a little bit with the fact of what he is now versus what he used to be as far as his former form as a human versus a giant rock, right? He got a beard. That was kind of interesting in this one, but I mean, hey, whatever. All four of them did wonderful by their characters. I think the issue, and I'll go into this a little bit more as we go on here today, but my issue was just the script itself, I think, lacked. And I think that if you didn't have the talented cast that you had on this one with this script, you probably would have seen a worse turnout than what you did, if I'm being completely honest here. Let's talk about Galactus. Let's talk about Silver Surfer. Last time we saw Silver Surfer, it was a dude. Now we have a woman that is canon within the comic book, so I didn't really have an issue with that. She was really fun to see what they did with her from like an action sequence and her relationship to Galactus being his herald and kind of being the one that is selecting these different planets. We find out later on that she has this job because she kind of offered herself into it in order to save her own planet. That was kind of a fun piece. Galactus is not an angry cloud. The last time we saw him, he was just a big, angry, floating cloud that was consuming planets. So seeing the more comic book accurate version of Galactus this time around was so cool. More importantly, seeing the scale of Galactus was so freaking cool. Now, they did a really good job with Ralph Ensign in his voice and seeing some of his facial structure still within the helmet of Galactus there. He sounded awesome. The sound effects that came with Galactus were awesome, especially when he would switch between kind of like visor mode and not visor mode while he was kind of going through things. It was really cool to see. I'm really glad with how they had done all of that. I have some issues with how they ended him. I thought it was cool that they used the whole teleporting thing. They were going to try and, teleport the Earth somewhere. I thought that part was a little weird, but then ultimately they grounded it down to get Galactus off his ship. We can just teleport him somewhere, and then he can just be away from his ship. He won't be a problem. But by the end of it all, right, we have Galactus getting teleported off to God knows where, right? And Human Torch was going to make that sacrifice. Again, depth to that character that we hadn't really seen in previous adaptations, I feel like. Silver Surfer ends up whacking him out of the way because they've had a couple of moments throughout the film, and she's like, I can be redeemed. So her and Galactus go through this teleporting hole. Where the hell are they going to end up? And I'm sorry, but are we just going to kind of two big characters like that? Like, where are we going to find a way? Like, are they going to come back in a different film? Is Doom going to have a part to play with them, maybe returning at some point? I don't know. I really hope that we're not just getting Galactus and Silver Surfer just for this film, just in the way that we got them, because I feel like there could have been so much more that was done. But we'll see. I mean, I'll take my wins again. He wasn't a big angry cloud this time, right? Overall, the story for this film just seemed rushed, right? Right from the get-go, we find out that they are pregnant, and then shortly thereafter, Silver Surfer arrives. We find out that Galactus wants to eat the planet. They go, and they're super proactive, and they're like, hey, we're going to go and fight him. They find out just how big Galactus really is, right? And negotiations don't go well. He goes, I want your baby. Your baby is some key to me not doing this anymore, right? And they're obviously like, nope, can't have my baby, can't have my planet, bye. And they run away. And then the rest of the film, they are like on defense mode, trying to prepare the Earth for Galactus coming. Then they have the fight towards the end of it, but it all seemed really rushed. And never once did I ever really feel like the Fantastic Four were in control. Never once did I really feel like the Fantastic Four were like the heroes or like have faith that they were going to pull this off. I was fully expecting them to just get their ass whooped. I think if you would have looked at it from the perspective of the story itself, they were just going to get their ass whooped. Only knowing that this was a movie and that Marvel wouldn't do that to them, did I have it like, they're going to figure some way to pull it out. But I didn't care for just kind of the script itself. It seemed really focused on just making sure that we were aware that the baby that Sue Storm and Reed Richards were going to have, Franklin, that's his name, is something way powerful, and is something that is going to be a thing in later movies. It seemed like the movie was so focused on that, and everybody else around was a supporting character, right? It wasn't a Fantastic Four movie. This was a Fantastic Baby movie, and the Fantastic Four and Galactus and Silver Surfer and everyone else seemed to have been supporting characters within that. You look at the mid-credit scene then, right? Spoilers, again, like I said in the beginning, and you cut to Franklin being a little bit older, and there's a Doctor Doom that's there, and we don't see his face, we only see the hood, but he's holding, his mask is off, so he's showing his face to Franklin. So again, what is it about this kid that is so important that Doom wants him, that Galactus wants him? This kid, no one cared about the Fantastic Four in this situation, right? This kid is going to play such a big part in films to come that they needed a whole film to introduce him. And again, like that's what this whole film seems to have been setting up. This was the setup. This was the building blocks for the films later to come. I kind of wish with that aspect that this would have been just a Disney Plus release. Honestly, this whole story that they gave us in this film probably could have been a Marvel series, because the action that we did get kind of throughout could have been like season ending episodes with the kind of action that was there, and then kind of go throughout the finite storytelling in your bit to bit episodes, right? But again, I don't work for Marvel, I don't work for Disney, so here we are. That's just my opinion. Let's talk about that baby a little bit more. We had a mix between practical, like there was a practical, actual baby on screen, and a CGI baby. And I definitely got Twilight vibes once in a while. I'm not going to lie. There was a few times where I was like, oh, that baby don't look right. That baby does not look right, y'all. And then that, and maybe it's because I'm a parent, right? And I'm kind of sensitive to this part. Not sensitive, that's not the right word, but I'm more aware to this. The baby, like, fresh out being born, like 2 scenes later was like holding their head up and like almost crawling, but then a couple of scenes later they weren't really doing much, and then a few scenes later they were like sitting up again. And I was just really confused about, like, is this baby a baby or is this baby a toddler? The kid is like 3 days old and he's doing all these things, and for like 3 days old he's huge too. I don't know, explain it away how you want with it being the magic baby, but again, just those little things that I was like, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't add up, man. All in all, it was a fun movie to watch. I didn't hate it, right? It wasn't my favorite thing that I've seen this year. I think it's worth seeing it in the theaters, and like I said in my quick take, though, I wouldn't pay full price for a ticket. I would not pay $20 for this film. I would go on like a Tuesday special or something like that, whatever your local theater maybe has, and do like a $5 or a $6 movie special. And if your theater doesn't have that, wait till it comes to Disney Plus. It just didn't make that big of an impact for me to warrant all of that hype, in my honest to goodness opinion about it. Yeah, y'all. I mean, so again, it was all right. It was all right. That's all I really got as far as that one. But if you saw Fantastic Four, I would love to know what your thoughts are. Drop them down in the comments down below. Like I said before, give this video a like. It means the world to me. Hit that subscribe button. That way, the next time that I do a full take or a quick take, you are notified. And until next time, guys, see ya.